Welcome back to the Demand Drivers podcast. We are all here to discuss a very great episode on how to drive demand through targeting the right customers and customer segmentation. So before we start, you probably noticed that we've got an extra panel member here today. Her name is Leanne. I'd love to start with the introduction. So,
Thanks, Chris. Hi everyone. I'm Dr Leanne Elich. I'm the CEO of Leanne Elich Consulting, and I'm a sales psychologist. I'm a coach, and I'm also an author.
We can't be more thankful for you to join us because this is a great segmentation episode. Yep. And it's all about driving demand. So let's jump straight into it. Mike, throwing to you.
Right.
Let's do it. I'm going to just go straight in. Customer segmentation. Why do we do it? What's the point? How does it link with marketing?
Yeah, cool. So for us, the way we look at the segmentation, it's one of the most important things that we do. Identifying who your customer is. And the key thing that separates marketing agencies and professional marketers compared to novices and amateurs is the ability to do the segmentation. Because typically, if you think about marketing, people say, well, we want to talk to as many people as possible, right? Let's just open up as much. The more we can talk to, that's better, right? Whereas the professionals say, whoa, hang on, it costs money. To talk to a lot of people.
That's hard to go with, right? Because a lot of people get, like you said, Mike, the default move is I need everyone because the more means more money, but that's actually not the case.
Exactly.
Leanne,
you need to make sure you don't dilute your value either. So knowing exactly who to, and I don't like using the target, but who you can actually help. So who has a problem? Who can we solve? What is it that we have? What skill and what genius do we have that we can actually help people with? And that needs to be really targeted and in a way that we can do the most that we can for them. Plus, they have to be right for us because it needs to be a partnership, and especially from an emotional standpoint where we connect, that's what does, that's great business and great segmentation. Also, what comes into play is personalities and understanding the type of personality that someone is, so you know that if they're a good person in that segment that's for you, that you can actually work with them from a personality perspective.
But we can also build on that with context. Literally just today, I had a client say, how do I say this better on my website? And I was like, what's the context? Who are we talking to? Because that also changes so much. I was like, do they know you're a video production agency? Do they even know your brand? Do they understand what the word production even means? Because all of that comes from segmentation, and you need to know who you're talking to and what context they're in. Kristin?
Yeah, wow. Look, from our perspective, it's where we start from all branding projects. So for us, we need to peel it right back and understand who is the audience, and the more that they can be targeted and understand their value proposition to a particular audience, and whether you're segmenting it right down to particular categories, we need to be able to create a unique brand that engages that specific audience. Okay. So the more that they can come to us with, here's your personas, that actually is the language that we talk in.
Well, that's the key thing, isn't it, really? So if you look at the targeting side, you've got two aspects. One is who you're talking to in terms of the size of the audience you're actually talking to. But the other thing about it is the relevance. So instead of trying to say the same message to a lot of different people where it just doesn't hit anyone, the more you get segmented.
Personalized segmentation.
Yes.
Right, personalized segmentation, because again, people are very different. Even if they're in the right target and they're right for you, they're still going to have slightly different problem that needs to be solved, and you need to adapt to that, and that's what makes that so beautiful.
And look, that's all ethereal and lovely in theory, but what does that actually mean? Let's discuss how does that drive demand? Throw in.
Okay, well, look, for us, there's two sides to it, right? So for us, the brand has a personality, and then your audience, it has, so you might have an avatar that you've created around your different types of audience, and each one of those create their own personalities that you want to target. So we've got to match the two. So how do you create demand? It's getting to the fundamentals of understanding who they are, what demographics they're operating in, what makes them tick, but most importantly, what is your value proposition, and where you said before, that's the story that you're going to tell. So what's your value proposition to each one of those audience, and how do we use that to engage them? Because it's about creating engaging content so that they come back and they find it interesting, and then you create experience across customer journey.
I agree.
It's layered and intricate, but that's
worth the time.
Yeah, absolutely worth the time.
There's nothing harder than firing marketing at everybody, right? And we've all been there with clients, right? Look at Mike, and it's because it's really tricky. So what I always say to the customer is, let's break it down, right? And there's no, I don't think there's any hard and fast rule. Everyone has their own sort of way of doing it. So long as it is broken down and you can see, like, I mean, we do this, we've got, one of ours that has Growth Gary, right? And then we've got Startup Sally and Mature Margaret, and we have funny names.
These are Melotti Media ones.
100%. But then there's others, like, and what happens is they all have attributes.
Yes.
And then you say,
I think
okay,
that's the key. It's the attributes.
Attributes, demographics,
There's psychographics as
all
well.
of that.
Yeah.
And so for people watching and listening, I think that the biggest favor you can do your marketing right now is to recalibrate and think, who am I targeting? And it can be 5 or 6, 2 or 3, whatever it is. And then what am I doing specifically to each of those, and how does that affect my sales funnel to drive more demands?
Yeah. That might be something that we then we can talk about, is just the different types of segmentation that you mentioned. So we mentioned, so we had demographics, we had geographics.
Geographic, demographic, psychometrics, and behavioural. They're the 4 pillars for segmentation.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
Does everyone know what they're like? Does everyone good? Like demographics, personality, and like specific attributes like age and things. Geographic is location, and then psychographic is like mental.
Their mind, their behaviours, personality, their profile, their
beliefs,
their values, their preferred communication medium, which is really important, as well as how they want to communicate with in the wider public. Yeah.
I love it.
Which is important because you've got to connect, right? You've got to really connect with someone. And sometimes it's a little bit difficult when you're, slightly different from that person, or, introvert versus extrovert. But to be honest, some of the best people that can actually profile and segment are people that are more introverted, because they take the time to understand the person that they're talking to, and they're really good at doing that.
Now, I'm going to ask that question that I know everyone listening is thinking, is how do I communicate in different ways on all these different levels to many different personas when I've got one website? It's always right. So that's the question everyone's thinking right now. So just to be clear, we definitely want to segment, and we definitely want to target the right people at the right points. But how do we get that work across multiple different channels? Who wants to throw in?
To me, it is coming down to it comes down to understanding those different segments and understanding what drives them and where they enter the customer journey is quite important, but also understanding what content engages them. Now, there's 2 ways of doing those. There's one, the initial analysis where you do segment, and then there's the tried and tested, which is to push content out to them and see which ones they react to, and analyse your data back so you see which ones they're responding to. But basically, it's within a branding space, from a visual perspective. What we can also do is when we know we're targeting across different social media, or we're targeting different personas across the same social media, what we can tend to do is rely more onto our secondary colour palettes and also our secondary designs, so that we mix it up so that we know that we're targeting different personas. So you keep the same core branding, but you're refreshing the brand each time in the eyes of different
dimensions.
Right? I actually love that. I think that's brilliant.
It keeps it layers it so that it's attractive to different aspects. It's the same with your messaging. You talk through your messaging differently to others, and we present the brand differently.
And when we do like sales messaging and all of that, I always say start with the persona, then where are we going with the target funnel?
Yeah. What is it that you want to say, and who is it that you're talking to? And if you dilute that and make it really broad, then no one gets the message. Yes. It doesn't affect anybody. And we think we're doing the right thing, but we're not.
Because clients will a lot of businesses will say, oh my God, but what about, but that's okay.
That will be another day.
And from a practical sense, I mean, Mike, I'll open to you as well, but on the homepage, for instance, what I try and do is make the homepage more of the commonalities of all of your demographics, and then I allow the homepage to diffuse people into the right places. And you see this all the time. Like you'll see on a clothing, men's and women's wear, but then you'll see other things like, are you a member? Are you not a member? But there's also things like this service is for this kind of, for startups, for this and that and the other. So I try, for people who are wondering, which I know they are, is even though you're targeting and you've got segments, you have that general message that sort of allows people to filter into the right places.
As well.
Oh, and people will definitely do that. As I said, like the fashion, I always say that to clients, the fashion one, because people go, oh, of course I go to men's wear or women's wear or children's and all that. And you go, oh, I wouldn't even think about it for a service business or a lawyer or all that. People will filter themselves, and then you cater their way. Mike?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you look at the homepage of a website, it's no different to the foyer or that sort of
like that.
that entrance. Absolutely, it's a department store, and you say, where do I? Yeah, that's right.
The vestibule of Maya.
make it as easy as possible for people to get
And
around.
then you have a menu, or you have pathways to lead people to where they need to
and
go.
they will. And
Yep.
that's the thing that a lot of businesses don't think of, is that they will think, oh no, like they're going to get stuck and they won't know. Absolutely not. People will go, and if you don't open to any of them, that's when they leave. If there's a generic message there, then they go, oh, this is not for me.
Yeah, I think what's also important is that when we are offering or promoting to a certain segment or a certain target market, that we actually have the option for other people to actually see what else there is. So sometimes we have, so these unrecognised needs. Like, oh, I didn't think of that. Actually, I might, and that's when we go down different rabbit holes. When we're looking, I didn't think of that. Let me see what that offers. Let me see if that can help me. And what's what we call unrecognised needs. But without having that option for that that person or for that potential client or customer, which is they're our number one, we can't look at the full picture. It's not holistic. But we don't want to dilute it or broaden it too much. It still needs to be relevant. I think what you were saying about the relevancy, that is so important. Yeah.
That's my flag as well.
Yeah.
Relevancy. So, key takeaways. Let's sum up.
Start there first, because he started.
I think from what we covered off, if you look at the importance of segmentation, the two key ones is because it helps you to define who you target and talk to, and secondly, it allows you to refine your messaging so that you're talking specifically to the right people.
Yep, understanding personalities and the personas and the profiles, making sure that you're encouraging the psychographics of a person, understanding their values, and enabling that emotional connection as well. That's really important. So they will then listen and keep coming back.
Yep. I'd build on both of those and say, once you've identified who that audience is, then reflect your own brand and your own messaging to talk to each one of the audience and understand how they come through your customer journey. So where they touch you, through what media they touch you, and then make sure that you offer them different content to actually go through the journey with you and create a fantastic customer experience. So it's actually just taking the time to really understand that different audience. And be unique for them.
And I would say, what I do is I show my team frequently. So what I do is I put our personas together, and then it's not like it's hidden in a drawer. Like, I will say, this is this kind of customer, and I find that the template of who, what, when, where, why, how makes it easier for people to understand. So I'll say to my team, we're writing for Government Gary today, and we'll say who, all right, yeah, right. And it's who they are, what they want, why they want it, all those kind of things will help make it more accessible for your team. So it's not about going, yes, we've identified, put it in a drawer. It's got to be accessible, and I always say it to my clients, put them on the wall so you've got it there.
Front of mind constantly.
So thanks for joining us for Demand Drivers. So we were talking about customer segmentation and how it drives demand. So please use it in all of your marketing.